This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome to Chapter 1 of How Your Legal Rights Actually Work, where we're diving into the messy world of workplace rights and what actually happens when things go wrong. Today we're breaking down discrimination and harassment laws, plus the real steps you can take when your boss or coworkers cross the line. Let's get into it. About half of all complaints to America's workplace watchdog aren't about low pay or bad bosses. They're about retaliation after someone speaks up. A joke in the break room, a restructured schedule, a promotion that quietly disappears. This is where your legal rights really start. So how do things cross the line from "my boss is unfair" into something the law actually cares about? A lot turns on patterns, context, and protected characteristics, the parts of your identity the law specifically shields. One off-color comment at a staff meeting is awful. A drumbeat of comments that target your race or gender, followed by mysteriously bad performance reviews, starts to look very different on paper. Some of the most important evidence in these situations isn't dramatic at all. It's the awkward silence after you report a problem and people stop replying to your emails. It's the schedule change that always seems to hurt one older worker, or the jokes that only travel in one direction. Each incident alone feels small, almost not worth mentioning. Together, they can form the backbone of a legal claim, and a powerful negotiation tool long before a lawsuit is ever filed. Think of this as less, "is my boss breaking the law?" and more, "is there a story here that an outsider could follow?" Employment law is surprisingly technical about who is covered and when things count. Federal rules usually only kick in if your employer has a certain number of employees, and some kinds of unfairness fall into a gray zone that's terrible but not unlawful. On top of that, each state quietly overlays its own rules, sometimes broader, sometimes narrower. Where you work, what your role is, and how your employer is structured all change your options. Here's where it gets concrete. The law doesn't care whether your manager is nice or mean. It cares what happened, why it happened, and what changed afterward. Think in layers. Layer 1. What actually happened? Courts look for specific, observable events, not vibes. Being treated differently is too vague. Being moved to a worse shift 2 weeks after complaining about racist jokes while others keep their preferred schedules is something a lawyer can work with. Did your pay, title, duties, schedule, workspace, or evaluation standards change? Did someone say no to an opportunity they'd normally say yes to? Layer 2. The why now question. Timing is powerful. A bad review during a company-wide performance crackdown looks different from a bad review right after you disclose a disability or pregnancy. The closer the timing, the more outsiders start asking whether the stated reason is just a cover story. In law speak, this is about pretext, the gap between what your employer says publicly and what their behavior suggests privately. Layer 3. Comparisons. Who else messed up? What happened to them? If a younger coworker shows up late repeatedly and gets gentle reminders while you get written up after one late arrival, that comparison matters. The law loves comparisons. Same supervisor, similar role, different outcomes. Layer 4. Process glitches. Many organizations have handbooks, complaint hotlines, and zero-tolerance posters. The moment you use those systems, their response or non-response becomes part of your story. Did they investigate, interview witnesses, document results? Or did the issue quietly disappear while your career stalled? Deviations from an employer's own process are often red flags. Layer 5. Accumulated impact. No single insult, schedule change, or missed training might look huge on its own. But when the overall pattern makes a reasonable person feel unsafe, humiliated, or pushed out, the law starts using phrases like hostile work environment or constructive discharge. It's the total weight that counts. A bit like a medical diagnosis, no single symptom is decisive. It's the cluster, timing, comparisons, process, and impact that turns a frustrating job into a legally significant story. Think of yourself as assembling a playlist, not a single song. Each track is one concrete moment you could later point to: the project you're suddenly left off of, the client you're no longer allowed to speak with, the meeting invite that disappears after you raise a concern. On its own, each track sounds minor, even petty. Together, they start to reveal the mood of the album. Here's what those tracks can look like in real life. A high performer who always exceeds expectations suddenly gets a chilly meets minimums with no new feedback. A reliable schedule quietly turns into rotating nights and weekends only for one person. Travel and conference budgets shrink, but only for the person who started asking HR uncomfortable questions. A role that once involved strategy morphs into mostly clerical work, while peers keep the interesting assignments. None of these scenes mention slurs or yelling, yet they all change your trajectory in ways an outsider can recognize, and that's the kind of story outside reviewers are trained to hear. Digital tools are quietly reshaping how all of this plays out. AI resume screeners, keystroke trackers, even chat logs can become either buried bias or powerful proof. Think of your work apps like a trail of breadcrumbs, neutral on their own, but revealing when someone retraces the path. As companies adopt algorithmic hiring and monitoring, those systems themselves may be challenged, audited, or subpoenaed, turning code into a witness in future workplace battles. The next step is learning how to use all this without blowing up your life. Think less courtroom drama, more chess, small, quiet moves that improve your position, like saving key emails, clarifying instructions in writing, or asking for policies in plain language. You're not declaring war, you're setting the board so if things shift, you're already 3 moves ahead. Before next week, ask yourself, 1. If I read through my employee handbook, policies, or code of conduct today, where do I see clear definitions or worrying gaps around discrimination, harassment, reporting procedures, and anti-retaliation protections? 2. Thinking about the last month at work, which specific comments, jokes, just teasing, or patterns, like being excluded from key meetings or given worse assignments, might actually fit the legal examples of discrimination or a hostile work environment the episode described? 3. If I had to report something tomorrow, who exactly would I go to? HR, manager, external agency, union, lawyer? What evidence could I realistically gather this week? Emails, performance reviews, Slack messages, witnesses, and what part of that process feels scariest, and why? This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!